Hi, my name is Pat Mancuso, and welcome to the Success Ascent. We are excited that you're here today. We are going to be interviewing a gentleman by the name of Craig Owen. Craig is an entrepreneur, business owner of multiple businesses, father of 5. Craig also is the owner of one of the largest real estate offices in the country with over 1,100 agents. Craig's going to be sharing with us ideas and concepts on leadership and how to succeed through others. This was a great interview and some fantastic strategies to take away. So ladies and gentlemen, on to the ascent. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Success Ascent. My name is Pat Mancuso, and I'm the host and creator of our podcast. And I have to tell you today, I am extremely excited to welcome an individual that I have known for a long time. I've watched his trajectory. I've had the opportunity to work with his team. And this interview is going to be amazing. So I want to introduce to you Craig Owen, and he is the operating principal of one of the largest real estate offices, frankly, I think in the world. And he's going to tell us more about that. He's based in San Antonio, Texas, and he's going to share with us not only the things he's learned in that business, he owns multiple businesses. He's an entrepreneur. He's very active in the community. And I know for me, one of his great skills and the things that I've watched is he has an ability to succeed through others. And as an entrepreneur, that's really a key skill. And so I'm excited to welcome Craig. So Craig, welcome to the show.
Hi, Pat. Welcome here. Welcome. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thanks so much for joining. So Craig, I know you really well, and yet some folks may not, even though you run one of the largest offices in the world. So tell us about Craig. Tell us a little bit about Craig.
Pat, I just had my birthday last week. Turned 51, like a kid in a candy store. Ended up in Vegas, and I flew my first. Of course, I've been on helicopters before, but we flew into the Grand Canyon, and it was an experience of a lifetime. And of course, every time I go to Vegas, I try to do something exciting. Right, the last time was a race car. It was go to the raceway and drive some type of exotic speed car, and every time I'm doing these things, as I'm getting older, it seems like the adrenaline rush still affects me the same way as a young buck. I mean, I enjoy life, and I got to tell you that to see these highs, sometimes we have to go through these lows. So 51, I can tell you that I've been in the real estate industry since a very young age. Got into it right at the age of 18, got my license, and I'm a second generation, I guess, person in this business. My mom and my father sold real estate for a number of years. Father was in the lending side. Mom was the typical real estate agent with the MLS books, and grew up with the wood paneled station wagon with the sign, the big C21 sign on the side of the door. So yes, I'm a father of 5. I've got wonderful kids. None of them want to be in real estate now. They're either in college or in their adulthood. I guess I did something right. I'm not jokingly, but they didn't. I think they saw what this industry is. It's not for everybody. They got to find their passion. It was definitely fit personality and behaviorally for me. Mm-hmm. It kind of fell in my lap on what I did do, but. After 5 children, I'm still doing this and still loving it. Actually, I'm still enjoying it.
So Craig, so I love the 51 deal and doing those experiences and living life to its fullest because we just never know, right? We never know what the next day holds. And that's one of the things I've always appreciated about you as well is the reality of how you live and how you run your businesses. So talk about you own multiple businesses. You're in title, you're in real estate. What else? What other businesses are you a part of? I think you're a part of some other businesses, correct?
Well, I have some. I started purchasing some commercial. I used to do a lot of residential. I didn't have the successes that I think some folks have had over the years. It was a lot of work to run and manage multiple properties on the residential side. I wasn't leveraged enough. But I did over the years get into commercial real estate, which had a little bit more. Yes, it was a little more specifically a little bit more challenging, a little bit more requirements on down payment and getting into them. But I got to say that long term has been a better rate of return than the initial flips and the property management, personal ownership of property, residential property. Now, over the last couple of years, I think COVID actually might flip that. I think we might see that the residential Airbnb model might be more effective. But I'm definitely more of a long-term I strategize on more long-term investments instead of short-term. I'm not your typical. I laugh and it's entertaining at best when I talk to people that see this industry as a reality TV show. I'm not a flipper. I don't have a desire to be a flipper, and it's not really what I consider to be a long-term type of real estate holding. But commercial real estate's part of it. Definitely, title has been another wonderful part of it, and property management. I do have a property management division now that's been very successful, and of course the real estate offices. I've got. I'm operating principal of 3. I have ownership in a few more offices that I'm not the OP, but I generally speaking, I like to be, to have investments, and especially in real estate offices, I like to be the OP.
Yeah. Well, and so that's a great segue to talk about in what I've experienced in my relationship with you over the years is you've got the largest office in San Antonio, one of the largest offices in the world. Let's talk about that business for a second. And as the leader of that business, just talk to us about that. How many agents? Production, I know, is in huge numbers. And let's just start there. Tell us, the folks that are listening, about that business.
So I guess the office you would be kind of most interested in probably be the Heritage story.
Correct.
Heritage Market Center, and this gives you an idea how old it is. It's Market Center 02.
So it's the second office in theory in KW that's still standing.
Correct. Yeah. And it did renew its franchise
I love it.
for another 10 years.
I love it.
But looking back on this, Market Center 02 was actually owned at one time. Gary Keller was one of the owners. Was partnered with another investor in San Antonio. And when I came to the offices, actually, that's kind of funny. I started with Keller Williams back in '96. January of '96. Wow. And it was a fascinating journey. But back then I was a Remax guy. Remax, had a real stronghold. KW was kind of, it didn't have a real good reputation. Matter of fact, it was, some people will laugh about it. And a lot of people said it was Keller Who, if you remember that.
I do.
In my market was Keller Boo.
Hey, that's not as bad. That's not as bad, Craig. When we opened up our first market center, they wanted to know which franchise of Sherwin-Williams we were versus Keller Williams.
Yeah, they called me for years. They thought we were a paint company. I actually people come to the front desk and ask, "I'm here to get some paint. I brought a swatch in, bring their cans of paint in the office." Like, no, it's a real estate office. Yeah, those are dying days. To give you an example. Of just where we were, I guess I'm trying to think how far back I can go. I can really recall that when we first started, we weren't more than 40 people. Mark Willis, I remember myself. He was the OP, and we actually imploded the company and started over. We had to. It just didn't. We didn't. I don't think we had but one agent. I was at one. There was maybe only 2 or 3 agents in the company that were actually considered cappers.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you have to go backwards to start,
Yes, I think that's a big lesson. I mean, I don't think, you can't throw anything out. I mean, there's options for how you build something, but sometimes the best way to do it is completely destroy it and start over. And that's okay. I mean, I think every leader's got, there might be a different strategy, but here's what I do know. I think, and this is a fact, I think even Gary and Mark, Gary would agree with this. And this is what I hear, in many, many books is, look, we all got to play by the rules. The question is, it's the strategy you pick that's going to determine the success you have.
I like
strategy, whatever, again, we're all going to play by those same rules. We're unfortunately, we're human beings, and we're all going to have strengths and challenges, and good at certain things and bad at others. And hopefully, you can strategize on the right skill sets with the right people. And I think the greatest book I'd probably start out with reading would just be Good to Great. Colin. It's just a great book that says, look, you really want to have a competitive advantage. It's going to start with, you got to measure up to the very best of that industry. that's your, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
You know,
You've certainly done that. I mean, so you start with 40, you blow it up, and
yeah, it started slow, Pat. It was a horrible beginning. I mean, these people like, I want to be a team leader for, I'm gonna, you hear these stories like, they want to be they read some book, watched some movie, reality show, how to flip a home, or these top real estate agents in California, New York are making millions. And then the next thing they next year want their new opportunity. They're all looking for the new opportunity.
Yep.
Folks, that's, I've been on this journey for 25 years, and I feel like everyone wants their opportunity. Great, but opportunity is earned. I don't think it's just an overnight success. And I think that's a big mistake of this industry. And it could be even our company gets to be careful with that, not to, and I think we're doing better on that, is to, it's just like a good wine. I mean, let's stop drinking it. Let's let it mature. Let's, it's like you might have all the grapes, you might have all the great ingredients, but the best wines take some time to mature to get that sweetness. And when I see these stories, it's like, yeah, I did this for 2 years, and like, well, man, I think anything to mastery is, and that, Pat, and you teach about it all the time. Mastery takes a good 10 years if you're doing the task even 3 to 4 hours a day.
Well, let's think about when you started and what you learned and what you went through. Certainly that you've applied that every step along the way, and without actually going through that and experiencing it, you might not be where you are today. I mean, you certainly may too. And yet what you're really saying is you got to have that experience, that maturity level to go to the highest levels. That's really what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't want to like tell people that you're interviewing with me and saying, oh yeah, you too can do this tomorrow. I know people can do it. The question is, A, do you have the skill sets to do it? And two, if you don't have the skill sets to do it, can you influence others to get on the same vision you have? And can you capitalize it enough to be able to pay them well enough to where they'll stay through the hard times and see the journey throughout, and hopefully in turn, long term, you see the results. Everyone loves the results, but no one wants to talk about what did it take to get that result. Was the squeeze of the fruit worth the juice that you received? And sometimes I'm not willing to I mean, yes, you might get juice out of it, but I mean, to me, if I'm going to end up with, like I see a lot of people's failed marriages, and hell, I've been there, done this. I mean, sometimes the squeeze wasn't worth the juice, the ROI, and not just financially, but physically, spiritually, emotionally. There's a price to be paid for these, Pat, right? There is a price, and
there's always a price.
The question is, at what level are we willing to sacrifice ourselves for time and energy? I mean, looking at the numbers, Pat, I was thinking of this. There were years, and I was going back and even knowing this. I'm looking at it now. There were certain years, Pat, we went backwards. It wasn't like it was every year was a stellar 20% growth year.
Right.
I remember when. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I titled the podcast is the Success Ascent, because an ascent is never straight up. There's always going to be peaks, and then there's going to be valleys, and that's really what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes that, like you said, to go forward X steps, sometimes there was an opportunity that we had to go backwards. Maybe not directly because we wanted to go backwards, but to blow through some ceilings of achievement, we realized that we went backwards because the numbers proved it, and then we executed on a new strategy to break through the old ceiling that we had.
Right.
And
so where are you at today? Like, how many agents do you have in this particular business?
I think right at 1,100.
Okay. And
that one office has 1,100 agents.
One of the most successful offices, obviously, in the country. And so in that journey, what have you learned?
I'd say a couple things. What have I learned? Number one, relationships, and I would tell my employees this, trump any dollar or task. Relationships are the key to long-term success. I have to begin with it and I have to end with it. And what I mean by that is I can see that I can have the greatest value proposition, period, in the story, but real estate is still a local business and a local industry. And we got to be very careful with franchising and models. I don't care how great that model is. You give it to a person who's not a leader or doesn't care about relationships. I'll show you a McDonald's that might have the greatest models in the world, but yet if not implemented and executed by the best leadership, will still be a crappy McDonald's.
Yeah.
And you know what, Pat? I've been around and seen McDonald's fail in certain markets.
Sure, absolutely.
And I honestly have to say that it has a lot to do with the leadership still to this day. The turnover. You know, Pat, I go into relationships. I've been in business. Majority of my staff have been here for 20 years.
Well, that's one thing, Craig, that's always impressed me. I mean, over the years when I've had the opportunity to travel and to do events in your area and work with your leadership, it virtually, I mean, I'd have to go back. I'm not even sure I could remember who was involved prior to the current the current leadership. You know, and it's that stability that I think businesses, you know, real estate, even outside of real estate, they miss. That stability is so important. And it's important, particularly if you're leading people, that, you know, they say people don't leave the company, they leave the leader. And so when you don't have the right leadership and stability in leadership, that's a big deal. So how do you get that leadership?
Yeah, I mean, all companies rise and fall on leadership.
Right.
You know, and I'm challenged today when I see these CEOs coming and going in any company. You know, no different. I mean, I'm not trying to get politicized this because I believe very strongly in wanting to support my party and believe it. But, you know, I have a hard time if I don't believe in the leader. And, you know, I think at times I have failed my people not being presidential. And I truly believe that companies that tend to do the best, even if they have maybe their model has challenges. I don't think it's like, you know, I get in my car may not be perfect on every route, but you know what? I'd say 95% of driving that car has to do with the person driving it, not the car.
Yes.
And yet, you know, we want to blame it on the car.
Right.
No, look at the driver.
Look at the driver. Look at
most accidents are not because of car failure. They're because of driver error. Yeah. And so, you know, I was looking back I went back here, Pat, the farthest that our reports go back is 2001. Do you know where you were at in 2001?
I was just joining KW in 2001.
Okay. I've been in the company about 5 years, and I think you're younger than me, right, Pat?
I love that. No, I'm older than you.
I know. You look good. So just give you an example. In 01, we were at 157 agents, and I've been with the company for 5 years. And I was just going into a leadership role then. Because Tony Romero was there before me. He was my recruiter that recruited me. But I think there's a mix, because if you're all relational and you don't provide a certain level of skill sets and so forth, I think that's where the error starts. So I mean, you asked me what was the biggest things I learned: relationships and leadership. Relationships, but it is through leadership that makes that difference, right? Leadership is nothing more, nothing less than the word we would define as influence. Nothing more, nothing less. I've heard Maxwell say that a million times.
Right.
And I think influence, the only way we influence is through relationships.
Absolutely.
I can't influence my computer to turn on and off by itself. But I can influence people. I can't make them do it.
Right.
We're not in a business where you have that right to. The success has nothing to do with me telling employees who do it. It's with hopefully inspiring, educating, and counseling. Which I just say the second would be most important thing I've learned is that consulting is critical. We were on a call earlier today, and I was, you know, talking to one of my great team leaders, and he just, you know, I said, what, you know, at the end of the day, we narrow it down to one value proposition that makes or breaks this company, that gives it the edge. It makes it, it's the special, we'll call it the special sauce.
Yep.
It's the It's the McDonald's. Okay, McDonald's got put on the map. It's been many years, but I mean, think about it. There's certain things we all like about McDonald's. We might make the chicken McNuggets and the special sauce. Something that creates that desire. We go there. Just like now, it's Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Well, KW, I think for years, we have maintained a high level of consulting through the coaching program and through the education of Bold, Ignite, so forth and so on. And I think it's up to the leadership, local leadership, to embrace not top down, but bottom up. Like that was, and that's where we, as we are still a company. Most of us are entrepreneurs. We're not employees, and let's don't lose sight that that's what got us the home runs. Right. Is we were an entrepreneurial company that embraced and connected and consulted and gave opportunities to other entrepreneurs. Right. And if we aren't growing, and there are signs of that happening across the country, I truly believe it's because maybe our special sauce has not been used, or we got to find something else that makes the value of our office. So if offices are going backwards, and I was looking at the numbers earlier, Pat, I'm looking at a lot of KW offices, and people have asked me, hey, why don't you consult these people, blah, 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 they've lost X amount of dollars. And I mean, I go into marketing and tell you that's usually that is not, it's like diagnosing a patient. They got a fever. Well, what's the fever from?
Yeah.
It's not, it's a symptom, exactly.
Right.
And I look in and I can usually point out 2 or 3 things and say, well, the company's going to fail until you get a new team leader, or the leadership, or maybe the OP needs to be fired, or just it needs to be gone. Yeah. And because all companies rise and fall in leadership. And the minute you see that, well, then the agents see no value. Well, obviously, because if they're leaving or they're not coming, it's because they see there's no attractiveness. And so I go back to this model where you have a choice to make. You can be an attractor, be attractive, or you can live by promotion.
Oh, what's the difference? Love that.
Well, promotion is where our company, I think when we first initiated this office and when we got started, I spent a majority of my time prospecting to people to tell them the vision and story. And I was good at it. It was a lot of work, but I was promoting the company because I had to do that because the company wasn't attractive.
Yeah, we didn't have enough horsepower and enough people telling the story to do that.
No, and we weren't that attractive. Right. But as we built these companies, we were able to buy better looking suits, so to speak. Our company got better looking. The standards got higher. Yep. Our front area and desk and training facilities and coaching, consulting, our technology. And as we've grown, we have become more attractive. And when we become more attractive, it's a much easier sale. It's like if I go to the mall and I see a Nordstrom sign, I already know that's a sign of attractiveness to me. Right. I would go, okay, I know Nordstrom. It has a standard that far exceeds the majority of Macy's, Dillard's, Joske's, whatever, Sears, whatever it may look at. And I look at it's a perfect example. Look what happened to Sears.
Yes.
And yet Sears, if we recall, was the staple of companies of what we grew up in. And now they're gone, completely gone. They didn't pivot when the value proposition changed. They didn't find the new value that they should have done for their audience. And they kept on sticking to the same Kodak picture, just like Kodak, and didn't go digital and ended up killing the company because they weren't willing to pivot and change with the times. Now, I go back and look at it and go, Pat, if we just would do brainstorming on a monthly or yearly basis and say, okay, what are we missing? Because I do believe in the absence of value. You're right. We got some market centers, quite a few market centers now across the country that they say they're offering us value, but they're still having to go down to literally almost half of their original cap.
Yeah.
What does that tell me?
Well, it could tell you a lot of things, and yet you bring up something, and for those that haven't listened to, we recently did a podcast with Dr. Randy Ross, and he wrote a book called Remarkable, and he consulted, one of the companies, Craig, that he consulted with was Chick-fil-A. He's done a lot of work with them. and he defines value creation. And we all talk about adding value. Everybody talks about, that's the buzzword, adding value. He's got a very unique definition to value creation, different from adding value. He says, when you know that you're a value creator, you have people literally who are telling other people about your business, and they're referring people to you. The definition of value creation is you get a high level of referrals coming to you versus you having to reach out to get them. And I'll tell you, if a company masters that, they master that ability to deliver a high value to their customers. And in your case, that would be your agents. Their case, that would be their clients, where they're literally getting those referrals. You can't, it's very hard to compete with that. And I love that you brought that up. And that's one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of people who are succeeding doing. And I know you guys do that.
I think in a day, I guess I called it differently, and that's great. I've always heard a word was you're either coming from attraction or promotion. And I love that. I need to get that book because I'm having a mastermind coming up for my people. Dr. Rainey, correct? I will talk to you after the class. Looking forward to that. So getting back to that scenario, I said relationships. We talked about leadership. We said consulting. I don't see, please don't, man, I'd be careful with this, but I don't believe that profit share by itself is the reason why someone should come to our company. Now, I'm going to say this only because I make good profit share checks, but as an agent that wasn't with the company, I believe that it's not something that I could grasp at my level. But now that I'm here and I see the benefits of it, a passive income, it's definitely another reason why I'm still here. And it's a vision I like to see for others that they would capitalize on, like any investments and so forth. Because I see a lot of people talk about, it's like agents, they talk about real estate investments, but they won't go do it for themselves.
Right.
They'll sell an investor and take a 3% commission, but they won't reinvest the 3% in the deal to capitalize on future profits. And I guess we got to look at this business a little bit more long-term instead of the short-term gain. That's unfortunate where I see a lot of people look at the short-term and not looking long-term.
Well, Craig, here's something, and I just, I'm watching you, and I love conversations with you, because here's the thing that I love about it. And I think this goes to leadership, it goes to consulting, it goes to coaching. You always say what's on your mind, and you're not worried about necessarily how people will perceive it, because you want them to challenge you on it. I'm going to put an idea out there, challenge me on it. Let's have a great conversation around it. And the whole mastermind concept is what you referenced earlier. And that's really what creates the ideas and stimulates the conversation. And, I believe in order to grow a business like you have, that masterminding is very common within your leadership and within the folks you are around.
Pat, I encourage it so much. I say, stop. I tell a mastermind we're meeting, I said, if you're agreeing with me, you're not helping me and you're not helping yourself. So stop. I don't need to see the nods. I don't need to see it. I need to tell me, challenge me on where do you think it's going? Because I said two great minds thinking differently can actually give far more ideas than two great minds that think alike. And so it's great when I see my leadership. And here's the thing, when I empower them and they know that I love them, not because they agree with me, I love them for who they are and what they're doing and where their hearts are at, unconditional love for the company, for others. I understand that in a day, we may not, matter of fact, I don't need to have them to agree with me on every aspect. And I don't want to agree with them. Let's challenge status quo. What the problem with this industry is happening is, and we're seeing in Keller Williams, where I think we need to challenge the leadership. Challenge me, and I don't think, at the end of the day, if I don't agree with Gary Keller, I'm not going to sit there and play a game with him and say, oh, I agree with you politically. That's not helping him. That might make him feel better, but it's not going to make, I know in the day, that's not going to help the company grow. I've said from day one, I don't believe that technology by itself is the only major thing that's going to keep this company growing. It won't. I truly believe that. I believe there will be so many people, a majority of the people in this industry, a majority of these agents are not going to get on board with certain CRMs or certain tech platforms, and they're still going to be successful. Now, We can all sit back and, oh, they'll not be there. Well, we said that 10, 15 years ago after the MLS book went away. Oh, 20 years ago with the MLS book. MLS book's been gone for how many years?
I started in 91. It was like going out then.
So, Pat, I mean, here's the thing. We said that many years ago that these people would never make it through the period. Well, sorry, some are still doing it and doing quite well. We know that relationships trump technology. Can technology assist? Yes, it's a leverage point. But by itself, it's not. I mean, so we have to be very careful that at the end of the day, my connections and my connectability, leadership, the ability to consult people at a high level, giving them great opportunities, and not just saying, look, EXP's done. I got to give EXP credit on a couple of things. Here's the difference. We got to get better at telling our vision and story that other people can't tell it better than us. I think sometimes our successes in this industry, our successes at we're at KW, has actually hurt us more than helped us.
Well, because people can downplay the success.
Yes, and we quit talking. We're it's like an old shoe. We got so used to wearing it, we take it for granted.
Right.
And I'm looking at my desk here. I've got so many awards and things. I'm looking at just cleaning up we're moving, and I'm thinking, I don't do a good job telling my own story. And I know that in the day, the newcomers, they're posting things that, sorry, we did that 15 years ago, and that's exciting to them because they're just now hitting it.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we're almost like, we as adults have a child side to us, and we need to, let's be mature about this. And I do believe that there's a lot of learning points that even an old dog can learn new tricks. And if not, then I'm ready to say, let's shoot the dog, because we need,
yeah.
I need that dog to hunt. And either whether it's me or someone else, leadership needs to get their egos out of the game, let go of their insecurities, let go of their doubts and limited thinking. And if they can't do it, then get out of the way and let someone else, and hire someone else and develop those skill sets who can go out and make it happen. Because people are starving in this industry. There are so many starving people that are looking for leaders that will guide them through the journey. Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day is, you're talking, your actions are speaking so loud to me, I can't hear what you're saying. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of our leaders.
Well, Craig, and and you talked about it, and we won't go political, but I mean, you could say that's politics. You could say that that's family. You could say that in most every organization, it's absent of leadership. So let me ask you a question on that, because I see you as a strong leader. I see you as a leader that cares, that's respectful. What's the biggest skill you've had to learn that didn't come natural to you in leading others?
I'd say financials. Financials are hard for me only because I think that it was never something, I never balanced a checkbook. I wasn't very good with my money, good at making it, but then money management was always something I struggled at. So I have to have coaches in my life, and it's just like a spiritual coach, no different than a financial coach, no different than a maps coach, or you have to have people in your life that give you guidance and hold you accountable. And they don't, I think at the end of the day, we all have bad breath. That sometimes we need friends that will tell us when we have bad breath. Mm-hmm. Good friends will tell you. I think that sometimes we're too easy to be, we don't want to upset them. We don't want to make this person feel bad. They have bad breath. Well, I think it's important to let people know that, hey, I'm telling you something because I care enough about you.
Right.
This is an area where you need to work on. I think it didn't come natural. Finances didn't come natural to me. I think too, technology, even to this day, I still struggle with technology. We're on new programs all the time with our company. I don't necessarily just follow just because, one company says we should do it. I look at what's going to benefit the local brand, local office, and the local agents. I think that, if you had a leader that doesn't believe in a certain religion, the leader needs to move to find the religion they believe in. If that church doesn't have that ability to give them that religion belief, then they need to move on. I think that's there is a religion in this company, and there's a religion on all the other different offices. I think it's a business religion. We have different philosophies. My business religion is a few things. I believe that we treat people fairly and honestly, but I don't believe every person is treated equal. I can't treat everyone equal. and it's physically impossible.
Well, and nor should they. I mean, if you're performing at a higher level and you've got an office of 1,100 agents, you're going to have different circumstances. You're going to have different needs. You're going to have different expectations.
Correct.
So we say that great leaders are great coaches and great coaches are great leaders. So what coaching skill have you really had to develop that's helped you in your communications with your leaders around you? Because I see the respect that they have for you. And I watch it.
You know what? I gotta say, I think with full transparency, I think as a leader, where I've seen a lot of leaders fail, and we see this all the time, is vulnerability. I think I'm okay going into a meeting, and I just got off a meeting earlier today, and I asked Michael Bosart. I said, Bosart, we're having a mastermind next week. And I said, Bosart, I'm struggling on this one area. And I just broke down to him. I said, look, I'm asking you to help me in this one area. And I need you to do this presentation for me. Can you do it? I said, I think he thought about it. And he was probably thinking, why isn't he just doing it? Mm-hmm. And I honestly thought to myself, if I was the best, I probably would consider myself as a resource to do it. But as a leader that knows that in the day, I truly believe one of my greatest gifts and skill sets has been who do I get in business with, right? Picking the right person and then holding them accountable, developing them, mentoring them, leading them.
Right.
But giving them autonomy, not with grace. But at the end of the conversation, I was very vulnerable with him. And I said, I'm letting you know I'm working on myself in this one area. And I need you to step up the plate on this. Can you help me? And I think because of the respect and the years that we've helped each other, Pat, and we've all been through a lot of trials and tribulations, and literally millions of dollars and millions of dollars of profit over the year, which proves that we've had plenty of successes. But you know what? It's like baseball. No one recalls how many freaking, how many times you struck out, right? They don't remember that. They only remember the home runs.
Right.
And we did have good home. Even during COVID, we've been having some great home runs. But we've had a lot of baseball. Understandably, our successes were only there because we had a buttload of failures. So vulnerability and being completely transparent with my leadership is critical. And I think over the years, I've gotten easier to understand that I probably single-handedly have less of the answers than the collective effort of all. So when I get in these masterminds, I've gotten better about just shut the hell up, Owen. You don't know. They're the ones doing every day. My goal is to bring it out of people and say, what are you doing? Right. But maybe can we channel the conversation into areas where, what can we do to improve on this? We've had leadership in the past, even our company, that I thought was kind of a bully. And I think the worst thing I can do for my people is bully them.
Right.
I believe that my leadership that I have, I'm not going to sit there. Here's what I do now, Pat. If I have to make my employees do something and live by a certain checklist and do certain things that do you know what I'm doing? I'm really in the day. I might as well take over the job. If they know I have to do it, and I've told them, if I have to do that, your days are numbered.
Right.
And I believe that's exactly what I learned from Willis when I was, trained under him, is like, give me full autonomy, but consult me in areas where I can work on, which there's plenty of areas.
Right.
And then reward me in the areas that I've done well. So with my folks, I truly believe, let's concentrate on what you're really, really good at. Mm-hmm. And let's double down on the things you're good at. And let's maybe find where, if you're weak in certain areas, I don't know if they'll improve that much. Let's get them help, consulting or virtual assistance, execute on some type of labor to help them in those areas, contract labor, whatever, technology, to where we can shore up the weaknesses and let them be really good at what they do. In the day, Pat, it's so different than real estate sales. It's it's a 20/80 principle. There's only a few things every day that really, really count. And everything else is minutia. It's wallpaper, and it really doesn't have much of an effect on the return, the squeeze of the juice, right? And so I'm looking back at the numbers, and I'm just sitting there going, damn, we did terrible those 5 years in a row. Oh, but then look at here, so I'm looking at growth patterns on, agent count's a big one. There were years back 01 to 02, we went back 9%. Then the next year, 03, we went 14%. Then 4, we went to almost 20%. And then I go back, I look at the other ones. There's one more. Then I look at 10. By 2010, we were at 474 agents. We were flat in 2011. We went down 2%. Then we went up 6%. Then we went up 18%. Then we only went 5%, 13%, 9%. So 17, 10, 11, and then back down to 0 at 5. So I mean, roughly speaking, we probably averaged 7, 8%. Isn't that crazy?
Well, and it sounds like a small number yet on 800 or 900. That's a pretty big number net.
Yeah, but what I guess I'm getting at on an average basis, it's almost like real estate. Gary Keller's always said, the average real estate investor makes about 9% on their money. Right. Well, I'm looking at the agent count was about a 9% return.
So, on average. Here's what is interesting, and I know you know this, and yet you said it. You're doing exactly with your people what highly successful leaders do, and that is, if they think they have all the answers, they're probably not a great leader. If they don't engage others to get them wins, they're not a great leader. And that's really what you're doing with your leadership. I mean, and it's obvious you're doing that. So let's shift gears a little bit. What's the best advice you were ever given by a mentor, by a coach?
Asked that if I want the best solutions from people, and I want them to empowering people to be their very best. It's not the answers I give them, but the questions I ask.
See, I love that.
And two, here's, I think, another one. I like the Simon Sinek principles and principles that he lives by. If I adopted these kids, so to speak, they're my employees. I went to the level of adopting them. Now, right. Case in point, Pat, I'm adopted. So there's a level of heartfelt love when being adopted as a child, as a baby. I found out when I turned 30, I went back and found my birth mother, and guess what she does? What she's been doing all of her life. She's a real estate agent. So I read in the blood, I guess. And so, but looking back on it, I think the asking great questions to get the answers. I kind of say that the adoption part of it, adopting our people. I do believe I don't have to fire too many people. I haven't had to get or career vision them. Usually it's not firing. It's more of a
career vision, career adjustment.
Yeah, career adjustment. I try to find them opportunities in certain other areas, other businesses I might own, or certain people I might have that they might fit better with. But I'm willing to give a lot of grace to a point.
Right.
Give them grace, because there's got to be an unconditional love for people. I don't expect them to. How can I expect them to care what I think if they really truly know I don't care about them?
Right.
So I have to care about these people, and unfortunately, I don't feel like it's their complete failure if they don't make it, Pat. I kind of gotta tell you that the growth mindset I have, I'm gonna take responsibility. I'm the one that put them in that position. I was the daddy, so to speak, that adopted them. So I've got to take some responsibility and say, what? Where's my DNA on this? What did I miss, and where can we learn from this?
Well, you showed them the opportunity.
Yes.
And you shared with them where they can go with the opportunity. Now they still have to engage, they still have to do it. And yet you hit on a really powerful word. It's responsibility. We have a responsibility when we bring them into our business to help them be successful. They have a part in it. And I think when you do that, and again, probably one of the reasons you're as successful as you are, is when you have that mindset that you're in that relationship, that there is a responsibility there. You look at everything that happens in your organization differently versus if you didn't look at it that way. So that makes perfect sense. What's the worst advice you've ever been given?
Grow it and it'll come. Build it and come. Build it and come.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good one. That has not served me well. I think some of the worst advice, let me think, worst advice that I've received or been counseled on.
Yeah.
I'll come back in a second on that. I think there is probably a couple of things I could probably tell somebody that,
Well, and you know what's fun about that question? I do pose it when I pose it. Sometimes people really have to think. And I always say, well, that's because you put it out of your mind in the back somewhere because you don't want to ever have it, come back again. So, I always want to ask folks I'm interviewing, what's a book that you're reading right now or a book that you'd recommend for people to read?
Oh, yeah. A classic, one classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Dale Carnegie.
By Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Best book. Hands down. I think if just people could do that by itself and run with the principles that Dale Carnegie played back in the 30s.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, a lot of our leadership today just doesn't have that. I to this day, I try to call my people my tops, and even though I'm OP, I still try to call people on their birthday, the ones I can get to, and just wish them a happy birthday. And that means a lot to me because it's a connectability, Pat. I mean, if that's the least I could do for them, and it comes through a phone call or maybe some flowers. When I just had one of my good friends, I haven't talked to her in a long time, but I found out her mother passed away. She was at my mother's funeral, and yes, have I moved on to some other, say, my position's changed and my daily activities are a little different. Yeah, but I go back to that relationship. When they received them, when she did the flowers, I mean, she just called me and started crying, and she said, I just can't believe you would do that. It didn't take anything, Pat. It didn't take a lot of effort, but I changed that little woman's world for just a split second. And I just don't understand why even some of our top leaders will not do that. Right. And it's maybe a phone call when they've hit a certain mark.
You forget where you came from.
But I mean, just a simple, maybe I think leaders need to be better cheerleaders for their people instead of just getting up and trying to command a room because they're presenting or because they've done something or because they have to tell me 10 times how they're a billionaire or whatever. I don't need to hear that.
Yeah. I
want to hear how you make me a billionaire.
Hope enough people get what they want and you'll get what you
want.
Yeah,
but I don't need you to tell me. My people don't need to know how much I've made. And first of all, it doesn't mean anything to them. If I'm doing that, that's my own insecurities, that's my downfall. That's my Achilles heel. When I have to tell them, they don't need to know what I drive or where I wear or where I go and in the houses I have. That's not important. As a matter of fact, it means nothing, Pat. I actually purposely do not even. I'm trying to put all of the effort, energy on who's that person on the end. How am I going to make them feel? Right. I believe truly that words are powerful, and I know I've hurt people in the past, and my goal is never to hurt somebody. Maybe I like transparency, and I truly love to bring the best out of people, but I'd rather lift someone up than bring them down. Right. So yeah, I think connecting with people through their accomplishments is critical. What's it take to call someone, and when they hit a great point, I'm looking at some of these numbers that my top agents have done, and they've gotten a call from me at night. Hey, I called Scott just recently. Scott, he had like a $20 million month. Hey,
Maloof, I bet you're talking about.
Yeah, I go, look, well, guy gets it all the time, gets all these accolades, but he didn't get an accolade from everybody, but he got an accolade from me.
And that's knowing Scott, that's a big deal to Scott.
Yeah, and it goes a long way. So it's their old lesson. There's an old story, I guess. It's a fable where the old man's on the beach, and from a distance he sees a small child in the distance throwing small objects in the water, and he goes down and he sees that there's the thousands or millions of these little creatures on the beach, and the kids throwing them. These little boys throwing the water, and they're little like little turtles, and they're sitting there on the beach, and they're gasping for air and not sure they're going to make it. And seahorses, excuse me. And he's throwing one by one the seahorses back, and the old man with such wisdom says, son, how can you, in all honesty, how can you affect, all and save all of these seahorses, millions? And as the little boy just was such innocent, throwing the next one in the water, he said, but I saved that one. And the question is, hey, we can save a few. We're not going to save every one of them, no. But my goal is, I've got 1,100 agents that are counting on me. Got 1,100 agents that are going to live by they're looking and seeing more by what my actions are than by my position.
Right.
They're not looking, they don't really care about my position. But if they know I care about their position, and I truly put a value on consulting, engaging in relationships, building relationship with them, caring about what they're doing. More importantly than telling them, I never talk about my numbers. Pat, I never, ever bragged about how big our market center was. You know why? Because I wanted to make every one of those agents feel like they were number one, not me. It wasn't important. And my leadership even knows that. We go to the awards sometimes, Pat. I didn't even go to the awards for the company. Why? It's not, I don't need those accolades. I want to give the accolades to the agents. That's important to me. So I hope that, it's like that connection with our people are critical.
Yeah. Well, and Craig, you've done an amazing job today. And it's, there's no doubt that not only do you say what you say, you believe it. It comes from your heart. I'm watching, and podcasts, and then I'm watching your body, and I'm watching your energy and the passion, and it's so much fun. So as we tie everything up, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to give you like a second or two to what one last thought would you leave with everybody? However, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Well, not to say that I am on Facebook a lot, but I'm not nearly like I should be. I think the best way to reach me is by text, cell phone. I don't answer. I don't usually answer the first go around, but I check my voicemails. My cell number. People, have a question for me. They just want to reach out, and it's truly, I don't. Here's the great thing. I don't have all the answers.
Right.
I don't even probably have a majority of the answers that someone would call on. I could definitely possibly ask some great questions, and hopefully there is a lot of self-discovery out there that it needs to be developed to people. Absolutely. So my cell number is 210-771-5250. Again, 210-771-5250. My email is easy. It's Craig Owen, CraigOwen @kw.com. One of those two places you can reach me pretty quickly. And Pat, I thought about, maybe some of the things that an advice, leaving that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to leave it with this: that my partner, Mark Willis, one of the greatest things he did for me that I believe I have to do for others and do it better was the idea and notion that he saw more potential in me than I saw in myself. And it made me so proud that after even our partnerships ended, that we are still friends and we can still hang out and we can still develop each other and be in conversation. With the fact that Mark saw more in me than I saw in myself back in the mid 90s. And through the course of those 20 something years that we grew the market center, he never let me feel that I was second rate or that I wasn't in command of the ship. He gave me full autonomy, and he believed in me even when there's times that I didn't believe in myself. Yeah. And so there was a lot of self-discovery in that. And I do believe his leadership style was the style in which I try to portray today. And I will continue to hopefully pour into the people in the lives of those people that are making my day. Because no one, Pat, we know this, no one succeeds alone. Right. And you know what? At the end of the day, it takes a small village to run these. Right. I think it's like no different than a church. I have the most fascination with big churches. Yeah. I'm amazed by how, because you know what, in the day, one of the hardest things to maintain on a regular basis is called faith.
Absolutely.
And I think in the day right now, Pat, we need more faith in this industry.
We sure do. We sure do. Well, Craig, what a great way to end. And ironically, I probably wouldn't be in the opportunities that I am today without Mark either. And how he believed in me in a different relationship. You were in a direct partnership. I was an extension through regional leadership. And so I feel the same way you do about Mark and Mark's leadership. So, Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a great show we had today. I want to thank Craig and everything that he shared with us. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you can hear The Success Ascent on any of your favorite podcasts, or you can subscribe at The Success Ascent. Thanks so much. Have an awesome day. Be safe. Be healthy. If you've not yet subscribed, please go to your favorite podcast source and subscribe to The Success Ascent, or simply go to www.thesuccessascent, and that's ASCENT.com, thesuccessascent.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. We look forward to catching you on the next Ascent.